God. Yeah, friends, I said friends. Why can't we all? I mean, all of us. I mean, every single one of you out there. If you can understand me, Will and Jill. Anyway, got it. The only religion we need is that there's one God and that we're all God's family. And for anybody to think anything other than that, I'm sorry to say this, and somebody's feelings might get hurt a little bit when I say this, If you think anything different other than the fact that there's one God and that there's one religion and that we're all God's family, if you think and you want to sit there and you want to argue with that, I'm going to tell you something and you're not going to like it either. You're a little bit ignorant, okay? Because for you to continue to go down this path, separating yourselves from everybody else, thinking you're right and everybody else is wrong, and if you don't do this, you're going to hell, and we're doing this, and we're right, and we're glorious, and God's going to have more favor on us, whatever, okay? There's one God and there's one religion, and we are all God's children on this planet. We are all God's creation. We are all God's children, and we are one big family. And we need to come together, you understand? Okay? So, back to and I keep telling you about the path that I went on, you say. And that was that I wanted to find out who God was on my own. Because people put limitations in God. One time I was on Facebook and I was going back and forth with some lady. It ended up being the preacher's wife. I didn't know it until I started looking around. She's the preacher's wife. And I'm going back and forth with this lady and she's like, God wouldn't do that. And I'm like, really? I mean, if you think that God wouldn't do that, well then you immediately shut the door to the possibilities of what God could really do in your life, because already you're judging him and you're putting him in a box and you're saying, no, God wouldn't do that. Well, you know what? People be surprised about some of the things that God really does, and then people want to blame God for the things that He doesn't do too. But anyway, I mean, this is huge. This is just huge about all of these different things. But anyway, so I went on this journey. Yep. I went on this journey because I want to know who God was without anybody else's influence. You see? I wanted to know who God was without anybody else's influence. You see? And I tell you, and I told you again, and I tell you again, I grew up Presbyterian. The influence of Christianity, okay, introduced me to God and the work of the cross, right? I talked about that in those other videos too, like Church on Sundays 1 and maybe a little bit on Church on Sundays 2, and this is Church on Sundays 3. And so I had that upbringing, but then of course I got, sick and tired. Sick and tired of being, because I saw the people that went to church. And gosh, I shouldn't say this either, and I'm not going to say it, but let's just say the people that you saw on Sunday weren't the people that were the same during the week. You know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, hi, and then during the week, they're like, they weren't, so it's all about, it's like, well, you get it. You understand? Going to church, it's all about going to church. It's all about going to mass. It's all about going to all these services and all this time. It's all about going and doing and practicing and waving your wands and ringing your bells and wearing your clothes. I remember one time, and I just say it just because it comes to my mind, and that's what it's all about. It's all about coming to my mind. I dated a girl one time who was a Jehovah's Witness. So, there's the whole Jehovah Witness thing. And she had all this pressure that, I had to be a Jehovah's Witness. So I was like, okay. So I went to a kingdom hall. The darkness in those places. I mean, no windows. It's like, but, I remember one time we used to wear regular clothes and all the time, and a lot of them, they think, well, if we dress up in our suit, we've got to look our best, and we've got to wear dresses, and we've got to wear suits and all this kind of stuff. It's like all this stuff that religions think they need to do. And then there was this one time that I decided to wear a suit one day, And finally, this guy came up and talked to me. It was like, it took me wearing a suit and tie for this guy to come up and acknowledge me, and it was like, so you can't, again, it's just people who have gone astray, understand? You've gone astray just a little bit, and you're taking things just a little bit too far. Okay, so back to where, I want to know who God was without the influence of anything. And that was actually a pretty long journey, kind of, sort of, to speak, I had the basis of knowing that there was a God. And there was absolutely no doubt about that, because God had touched my life in certain ways too. And if you have an earnest desire to have a relationship with God, He will kind of touch you a little bit and kind of let you know He's there and kind of give you a little bit of awareness. But if you want to go any further than that, it takes a much more diligent and consistent effort. Right. That's just about with anything. So I always knew there was a God, and I always prayed. I always talked to God, and I always prayed. But then I always wondered what, here I am, thank you, God, for this food, and and then I went through the stages of talking to God on, like you would anybody else, really. I mean, which I think is also good and pretty common there too. But, you can't just I don't think quite heartedly, I would say through my experiences that you do it through a, just kind of a random thing. I mean, it's kind of like you kind of got to give attention, you know what I mean? You kind of got to go into a little bit of a deeper attention and get in touch just a little bit and then have that conversation. You just can't go, God, God, or whatever, God, come on, please help, and just whatever. You've got to, there's got to be a little bit of an in-depth kind of like move yourself in that direction, so to speak. But anyway, one day I kind of mentioned this in one of my older videos, Soulex, the soul expression, those videos that are out there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think there's 5 of them, okay? www.soulex.me, that's where you can find them. So I got to a point in time where religion had put such a bad taste in my mouth. I wasn't going to church for nothing. And I would try to go to some churches, because I felt like, there's got to be some sort of importance to going to church too, because religion, I won't discount it completely. It does have its place, but we must evolve to a higher ground, you'll see. We must evolve to a higher ground, you see. And I would go to these churches, and I'm telling you, man, and then I started the people again, and the goofy clanging and just all the stuff that's out there that's in religion and that's practiced out there and all the different things, and it just got such a bad taste in my mouth. It was like I wasn't even going close to it, and I wasn't even so much reading the Bible either, except for what? The work of the cross. You see, the work of the cross is what Jesus did in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care if you're Hindu. I don't care anything. If you just, we'll get to that, how you can find God like the highway. One time I was walking around, and there was this little town up in Colorado. It's called Estes Park. It's a nice little mountain town up there. And they had there's like a metaphysical store, but you walked in and they had kind of spiritual things and incense and, just art and crafty things and whatnot. And there was this little bowl down on a bottom shelf with all these kind of little books in there. And I see, if you're seeking consciously and subconscious, then you'll be guided. I'll tell you that. So there's a little book in there, and it said how to talk to God. And I thought, well, this is interesting. So I picked up this little book and I read, and it talked about a prayer where it's you're doing this with your heart, mind, body, and soul. Your heart, mind, body, and soul. Your heart, mind, body, and soul. That very essence of everything that you are, and you take that and you focus. And it was a prayer with that. And I thought, well, that sounded pretty powerful to me, you know. So I got that little book, and then it wasn't shortly after that where this lady came into my packaging and shipping store, and at the time that I worked, and she was mailing out these little letters, and she was sending them, and they had the same insignia on this little book that I got that was written by a gentleman called Brahmanananda Yogananda, and he brought the Self-Realization Fellowship to this country back in whatever that it was, and it was kind of like an East meets West thing, and religion's kind of like doing this worship thing, and then Brahmananda brought the Self-Realization Fellowship, coming into realizing who you are as a spirit and having a relationship with God. It was more geared towards meditation and having relationship with God, because in the Bible, what does it say? It says, what's it say? It says, be still and know God. Okay? That means shut your trap. Huh? Keep your trap shut. Be still and know God. All right? Be still. That means, I remember one time, and I wish I could name names. Oh, yeah. And, I remember being in prayer with some people one time, and God, blah, 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 and then God, and blah, 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 and then talk. How could God ever get a word in with you flapping your jack all the time? You gotta shut your trap. Quit flapping your jack and shut your trap. So it was a prayer where you could worship God with your heart, mind, body, and soul. And with that, I'm going to sing you a little song, and I'll tell you about this song a little later. But anyway, my heart, mind, body, and soul are yours, dear God. My heart, mind, body, and soul are yours, dear God. My heart, mind, body, and soul, I love you. With my heart, mind, body, and soul, I love you. My heart, mind, body, and soul are yours, dear God. My heart, mind, body, and soul are yours, dear God. My heart, mind, body, and soul, I love you. With my heart, mind, body, and soul, I love you.